What's up, guys? I'm nobody special, and I am very blessed to have the man Erik from Sage News Live is here today. Erik, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Well, it's going good over here. Everywhere else, not so much. It seems
Right.
like every direction you go right now, you're going to step in something. It doesn't matter where. And one of these days, I am going to bring good news to this channel, and I'm going to tell everybody everything is great and things are about to get a whole lot better. And it's the end of the doom and gloom. But today is not that day because
Correct.
I am hearing all about a diesel shortage. Diesel fuel is the next thing that is going to paralyze the economy. And you are the man when it comes to logistics and all things transport, whether it be truck, rail, or by sea. I know you're the guy to go to. But what's going on, Erik? What's up with diesel?
Well, some of the stuff that's going on in diesel is the fact that, well, first problem we have here is the East Coast, right? We're going to be seeing some shortages very soon on the East Coast because of the fact that Russia, we've stopped buying oil from Russia, right? We've stopped buying that. That's the first one. The second thing, which I can kind of start to show you if I can take control of the bridge, Captain.
Please, you have the
I'm
con, Mr. Sage.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take control of the bridge here. Let me show this one. All right. So some of the stuff I basically pulled up was, let me start here. This was something back that was done in 2012. What happened in 2012 is they started to close refineries, oil refineries, right? And that's not something you can just, build up or start building new ones in like tomorrow. It's going to take time and we don't have that. So what the East Coast did, and this was for the Northeast area, what they basically started to say was, look, as you start to shut these refineries down, we're not going to have the capacity. We're not going to be able to hold enough oil. We're not going to be able to process enough oil. Let me pull down here. And it kind of went into some of the numbers and the ones that were shutting down, the ones that were being sold. And it cut big time that ability to hold that oil in that area. Now, the problem with the East Coast is we do have what's called the Continental Pipeline, right? But that Continental Pipeline ships oil from the East Coast down to the Southeast. It's really not designed to ship back. Doesn't have the capacity. That wasn't the purpose of it. Let me spin down here, and it kind of explains the issue is, how do we get oil to the East Coast? Well, what they started to do was they started to say, okay, we're just going to get the oil from Russia and deliver it to the East Coast, and that will be our East Coast supply. Okay. And I will pull up like right here. Diesel hit a record. Here's why diesel is being shortage. And one of the key things that they have here is the East Coast capacity has been cut in half from 1.6 million barrels to about 800,000 barrels a day over the past 10 years. And that's from, like I said, because that article or that report came out in 2012. It's now 2022. And the refineries in the East have shuttered. Lower production capacities and higher post-pandemic demand has caused the squeeze in the eastern United States.
So you're saying, real quick, just so I understand this right, our ability to convert crude oil into diesel gas has been cut in half over the last 10 years?
On the East Coast.
On the East Coast, which is the most densely populated part of the country where we probably need it most.
Right. And so this is why, again, you start to have that, that middles, it gets lower prices, then you get to the West and, well, California is its own country. But California and, the East Coast start to see that. So the other issue is right here. So there's a high demand around the globe right now for products like diesel, heating oil, jet fuel, which is made from diesel, which is also known as middle distilleries, since they are made from the middle of the boiling range when oil is turned into product. The U.S. currently exports 1 million barrels of distilled every day to countries like Mexico, Brazil, and Chile. Okay. So we are sending out oil on tankers. Now, there's something called the Jones Act. This is what I wanted to show you also. So this right here is U.S. PAD District 1, which in Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, right?
The whole East Coast, pretty much.
Yeah. The East Coast. And this basically starts to show that in 2016, we had 9. 20, and then it dropped down to 7. So we now have 7 operating refineries. I can blow this up if I have to. 7 operating refineries, okay, compared to 9. And then it shows the barrels down to 817. And
wow.
From 12 in 2016. Now, back in 2012, we still had 2 more. That's why we were 1.6 back 10 years ago, and now we're down to about 800, right? So we're down to about half. And this is on the East Coast. So now the issue is here. Petroleum products, this one explained. In the United States, exports about 8.6 million barrels a day and imports about 8.41 million. Total petroleum. Let's see. Is this the one that tells me this kind of just this one here? One of them, I might have been pulling the wrong one. Hang on. Is it this one? Okay. So right here, it says, where does the U.S. get its oil from? Now, in a logistical crunch, the only way the East Coast can get oil is by tanker, which we have something called the Jones Act. It's the same thing like NAFTA. In trucking, a Canadian driver can come down to the United States, unload, and pick up a load and go right back. A Canadian driver cannot deliver interior of this country. He has to go back. Same thing works for shipping and for containers and for oil. If a Chinese flagged vessel comes in, it can drop off and pick up, but it can't pick up in New Jersey and deliver to Baltimore. It can only drop off. It has to go right back. That Jones Act limits the ability for other countries to be able to help us move oil. So now if you're a U.S. vessel, you might be taking oil to Europe because they're paying high dollar for it right now. You're not going to deliver it from New Jersey to, from Houston to New Jersey. You're just going to run it, you're going to go where the money is. So what happened here, and I will blow this up, and this is what people need to understand. And they're like, well, we don't get that much oil from Russia. It's not the fact that we don't get that much oil. It's that oil goes directly to the East Coast. So about a quarter, the East Coast gets about a quarter of U.S. Russian oil. So we just lost 25% of oil to the East Coast because we stopped taking that from Russia.
So it's not that we don't have enough oil. The oil we have is in the wrong place, and we have no way to get it where we need it because this Jones Act cripples the ability of these ships to move it. Am I understanding that right?
Correct. It doesn't give us, if we were to, now at one point, we had another issue because of a storm that came in. And what happened is Trump basically waived that. He said, look, we got to waive this for a little bit. We got to get oil. We got to get stuff moving. Waive it. And he waived it. It should be being waived right now. Right now.
What's preventing that?
I don't know.
Whose political interest? Is it some union? Is it some powerful company? Somebody's profit margins? Somebody's preventing this, right?
Yeah, the only people that it would be preventing that is oil companies that are making huge amounts of money running it to Europe. You know what I mean? Because if you waive that, you're going to say, hey, come get here. Is the money there for them to do it? It's more cost efficient for them to snag oil and run it to Europe for that high dollar because they need it for fuel oil than it is for them to do it here. So this is the problem that we're kind of having. It's the actual logistics of the oil rather than, because now either we have to truck it, which costs money, more money to truck it interior, or you got to rail it, and then you need rail capacity. So that's the other way to do it. Or you ship it by ship, big tanker ships, and they move it. So let's see, is this one receiving much crude by barge? Okay, so yeah, so the East Coast has been receiving much crude oil by tanker or barge from the Gulf Coast as it has by rail in the Midwest. In April, the volumes of crude transported by tanker or barge from the Gulf to the East Coast reached the highest level since 2014. And this was in 2017. And I believe this is when Trump waived that one. Nope, am I moving on? Let me move on. All right, so this is the one that basically says, even why is the U.S. East Coast imports oil despite our boom? So this was back in 2017. And this is basically an article, and you guys can pull this one out of bizjournals.com. You could probably just type this right in and you can kind of read this one yourself also. The Trump administration waived the Jones Act for 10 days following the devastation affected by hurricanes in Puerto Rico, triggering renewal calls for it to be repealed. So this is where he waived it when there was an oil situation. So this is kind of where we're at. That oil that's coming in, because we shut down refineries, because we and we have a lot of other people wanting oil right now, it's going to the highest bidder. And we just don't have the means to be able to transport it because, one, other countries can't help us do it right now. And two, our own tankers are pretty tied up doing it. And then you get stuff like, this. The Biden administration cancels a huge Alaska oil and gas lease as gas prices. So he's basically saying, hey, that Alaska lease that you guys had for drilling oil, we're going to shut that bad boy off. We don't need any of that. So it just seems like a lot of the administration, and is this the one I just pulled? I haven't even read this one yet. But this one just came out on G Captain. Biden administration scraps plans for 3 offshore oil and gas lease sales.
Great timing. Great timing. Fantastic. We're looking at food shortages, fuel shortages, everything. This is a great time to push your environmental agenda. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and I this one just literally popped up while we were waiting to do this one. So I haven't even gone through this one. Biden administration on Wednesday said it would scrap 3 planned sales of offshore oil and gas this is the same one. Yep. In Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. The Department of Interior was not moving forward. So basically they're saying, look, you can't. So the Biden administration paused drilling shortly after taking office pending the analysis of the impact. So they've even stopped some of the drilling over there in the Gulf and in Alaska. And that one's still pending. So the basic issue we have is something that basically came up in 2012. And they said, look, if we have a problem, that whole report basically says this is what's going to happen. We're going to have a shortage on the East Coast first. We're not going to have the ability to move oil to the East Coast from other places. And with the Jones Act, the refinery problem, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that. There's just not a capacity of the oil. We have the oil. We can't shuffle it in there. Their answer was to say, okay, we'll shut down our refineries and we'll just get cheap oil from Russia and have it delivered to the East Coast. And we'll work it like that.
And it sounds like this is just another example of this decades of gross negligence of maintaining our infrastructure, our vital infrastructure, refineries, which, NIMBYism and environmentalism, nobody wants a refinery in their backyard. And that's great until you can't move anything, including yourself. Now there's a big problem. And here we are. There's no easy fix for this. Now, real quick, some people are probably saying, well, I drive a Prius. I don't care about diesel. Or I drive an electric. I don't care about diesel. Give me a couple of examples in the logistics world of how a diesel shortage could hurt us, because I think most people don't understand this.
Yeah, diesel is actually something that if you want packages next day, jet fuel is processed through diesel oil. It's the way it's let me speak in basic terms. It's the way it's cooked and what comes off. Like when you cook certain things and milk, it separates and all this other stuff. But what happens is jet fuel comes from diesel. So your air packages now come from diesel, which means that if you're looking, think about this. If medications are delivered by air, when you go get your pharmaceuticals from the Walmarts and stuff, that stuff came in by probably an airplane or a truck. Those all need diesel. That diesel price to be able to deliver things, when diesel goes up, inflation goes up. The cost of goods go up because shipping touches everything twice. It comes in, it goes out at least twice, usually more than twice, but at least twice. So if something used to cost $2 a mile to move, and now it cost, because of fuel and trucks going out of business, it costs $10 a mile. You're going to feel that price. They're going to pass that on to us. And when you don't have the fuel and you don't have the capacity and you start rationing, logistics is something that has to flow on a nice, consistent basis. And that's the best way it works. When you have ups and downs, highs and lows and peaks and valleys, it becomes a major problem down the road to try to get that back to your consistent flow of logistics. And it's logistics is one of the 8 wonders of the world sometimes, with the way that it can be done next day when it's done right. When it's
You know,
done wrong, we all feel it. We all feel it.
you mentioned shortages a second ago there, and I'm going to share my screen with you here because I want to show you this thing. Oh, that's the wrong window. I saw this one today. This is from Javier Blas. He's a commodities columnist at Bloomberg, and he writes billionaire John Castamaitis, who I don't know if I said that right. Castamatitis. It sounds like the name of a disease.
Yeah.
He owns a small oil refinery in the U.S. East Coast and several hundred gas stations from Pennsylvania to New York. And he says, I wouldn't be surprised to see diesel being rationed on the East Coast this summer. Diesel rationed. And what that means for people, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, because you start to see, like I said, diesel a lot of times is used for planes, trains, shipping, trucking. Diesel, if somebody were to Google what is made by diesel, you'd be shocked in how many goods is actually made by diesel fuel.
You know, diesel also powers all that John Deere equipment that is in America's farm fields right now, getting ready to start planting and turning the soil. So that's another thing that's going to contribute to this food price inflation that we all see on the horizon.
Right. And this is where that when the East Coast, I could see it being rationed also, because we just can't logistically move it to where it's got to go as fast as we need it. We just can't get it there. It's because of the refineries. We can't refine it. So even if it comes in, we're not refining it fast enough because there's not as many refineries. So at that point, you got to say, look, we don't have the room to refine this. We don't have the ability to move this. It becomes that Tetris game, right? And this is that highs and lows. And this is due to the shutting down of these refineries. And look, am I a Green New Deal person? I am not. All right. I understand that that's great when we need to save the planet. But there's times that people want to cut their nose off to spite their face. Right. And we have to realize that what do we need? What is legitimately required for us to be able, we've now grown a pendant to things like diesel for a lot of other aspects of life. To just cut it off and turn it off and hope for the best, it doesn't work well. It's not going to work well. People, if they just think everybody's going to say, well, they're going to deal with it, they're going to change, they're going to figure it out. It's something that it's going to take. It's not something we change easily to, getting off diesel. There's just too much need for it. And logistics, I want to show you is the problem also.
I want to show you one more thing here, Sage. Also, this is also from Javier Blas. I just found this right before we started here. It says, in many years covering the IEA, that's International Energy Administration, I think, monthly market report, I rarely have seen such strong warning about shortages of refined oil products, depleted inventories of diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel, and sky-high margins. And check out some of this stuff. This is from an IEA report that he's highlighted. He's talking about massive product price dislocation versus crude for middle distillates. So what he's saying is the price of gasoline and the price of diesel fuel and jet fuel is going to spike independent of what oil does. It doesn't matter what the oil price is. We can't refine it and move it. And so the prices of these finished fuels is going to skyrocket.
Correct. It's the logistics of moving it that's the problem right now. Not that we don't have it. Not that, we need to be able to refine it faster and move it faster. And we cannot logistically move it to the East Coast fast enough.
Man, look at some of this language. Again, these are not like YouTube fudders or anything. This is an IEA report. The current almost universal product shortage. Transport fuel shortages starting to curtail daily mobility.
Yeah.
He goes on to talk about exceptional product cracks, which is the difference in price between oil and finished fuel products. I mean, there's some serious doom and gloom on the horizon here in this finished fuel market, and I don't think a lot of people see it coming. It's gonna hit everything from your Amazon Prime deliveries all the way up to your food at the grocery store, and it's just one more thing that's gonna just crush those farmers this year, man. I keep coming back to food shortages, folks, and this is one more ingredient there.
And understanding that the other issue is that what they're talking about is they've got to get this refined diesel, let's say from Houston to New Jersey, right? So they've got to pay top dollar to get it there, because I got to incentivize trucks to haul that immediately, right? So now you're paying expedited rates to these trucks. So instead of paying, like I said, $2 or $3 a mile, and I'm using simple numbers, you now have to pay $6 or $7 a mile to that same truck to go from Houston to New Jersey. That cost is going to be passed on to the fuel. So when it gets to the gas station, rather than cost, let's just say $1, of that through $4 a gallon, right? Let's say that you just pumped a $5 gallon of gas. Let's say $1 was the logistical movement of it. Now it could be $4 for that logistical movement on top of the taxes, on top of the profit, on top of everything. You could be seeing $7, $8, $9 a gallon gasoline and diesel on the places that are logistically further away because of the shutting down of refineries and the dependence on other countries to say, hey, Russia's bringing it consistently. We'll keep buying it. That's fine. Well, now we're in conflict with Russia. They have legitimately shut off our East Coast fuel supply. And now we're trying to move it internally. And we don't have the best means to do that.
Throw that onto the inflation pile. It's another thing that's going to drive up the cost of everything. So
I think what we're going to start doing is I think we should start selling shovels. Because that just seems what we just keep piling stuff on. So maybe I'm going to hashtag, Sage News shovels, unfortunately.
Hashtag Sage's shovel. Yeah.
Sage's shovel. And then see if anybody wants to buy shovels. Cause it's, I'll get little like sand shovels and stuff like that. But that just seems to be where we're at. And we're not getting any help, in my opinion. Again, I don't know what's going on internally. I don't work for inside the administration, but from the outside doing logistics for over 20 years, they are not doing what I feel they should be doing, waiving that Jones Act, incentivizing some of those, foreign carriers to shuffle our oil around for us immediately. They're just not doing it. And I don't know why.
It's something me and my moderator Mish refer to as Team Thanos, and I won't go into too much detail with that. I don't want to get my channel in trouble, but Team Thanos is hard at work. But look, Eric, I really appreciate you stopping by on the channel today. Folks, it's Sage News Live is the channel. And again, when it comes to logistics issues, which right now is one of the hottest button issues that there is out there, he is the best channel on YouTube to follow for issues like that. I'm going to put a link down in the description. Check out his channel. And Erik, anything final words?
No, I just want to thank you for doing that. Like I said, when I bring the info, I bring as much, resources as I can. So if there's something anybody wants me to also dive into, shoot me an email, sagenews.org, or reach out to me on the channel.
Outstanding. All right, folks, until next time, live small and dream big.